let's start the core of our work. I would like to give the floor to Francois le Goff, who is working in ECA since 2008, and he's the project manager for Euclid, but also working on Rich IT, and he will be presenting to us this quite complex tool. I have to say personally that I'm always a little bit skeptical about Euclid because as probably most of you know, only the user manual of Euclid is more than 200 pages. The installation manual, so only how to download it on your computer, is more than 60 pages. So I hope that Francois will clarify this a little bit and summarize especially what to do with this tool. Please.
Good morning, everybody. Is it? Yes, it's working now. I'm Francois le Goff, working in ECA. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm always presenting Euclid, so I'm always introduced with this kind of comments on Euclid, that it's hard to use. And but fortunately, it was for Euclid 5. For Euclid 6, it's much easier. The installation manual, there is no installation manual anymore. And the user manual, we reduced that to 100 pages now. Of course, you have the field instructions, so I'm hopeful I can also show you the new Euclid 6 if you want afterwards. So I will start with Euclid, but I will give a short introduction on all the tools we used for Rich. And why are we using IT tools is because with the amount of data we have to process, there are some rich processes that we could not simply do without IT tools. We have received thousands or tens of thousands of dossiers since the beginning of ECA, and as it was presented yesterday, we are going to receive many more dossiers again for the 2018 deadline. So it's really important for us and for you and for industry as well to have the data in a structured way and a good indications on what is expected in a dossier. So we have developed a series of tools to, instead of collecting the data and then informing you about what you should have done, and we give you the tools so that you can check by yourself the completeness of your dossiers. So the IT tools for Rich, they are separated in three main groups. The first group is the data generation tools, and there I have listed KSAR, which is the tool we use for chemical safety assessment, and Andreas will present this tool in his presentation later on. And there is also the QSAR toolbox to use some QSAR algorithms in order to fill in data gaps by reading across substances. So this is also a tool that is developed by ECA in cooperation with the OECD. So these are tools that are mainly used to generate data or calculate information for the different aspects of the chemical safety assessment. The second group of tools is the data preparation, so where you store the data, and this is done in Euclid 6, and my presentation will be about this tool. And the next group of tools is the submission and use of the information. So for Rich, we use a submission portal that we call Rich IT, that is there for you to upload your registration dossiers. Not only registration dossiers, also inquiry. You do the pre-registration there, or you can submit people notifications as well. And Alexis will present in more details the functioning of Rich IT. Once the data is submitted, we use the data internally for different processes. Compliance check, completeness check first, compliance check, substance evaluation, screening, prioritization. And we make this data available as well on our dissemination website, on the ECA website. And finally, also in the EChem portal, which is an OECD portal that is there to collect data on chemicals from different regulatory authorities. So different member states or competent authorities are participating in this OECD portal, EChem portal. For example, US EPA or Canada or Australia are sending data to the EChem portal so that there is one entry point for users, consumers, industry to check what is available in terms of data for chemicals. Euclid 6, maybe everybody knows what is Euclid. It's the International Uniform Chemical Information Database. It's a software that has been used for many times, and for REACH particularly, for many years. And for REACH particularly, we started to use Euclid 5 in 2007. There is in the REACH regulation a statement, an article saying that all the data collected under REACH has to be submitted in the Euclid format. And this was done taking into account the need for structuring the data that is received by the agency and taking into account the fact that we are going to receive many dossiers. I was saying that we are using Euclid 5 at the beginning of the REACH regulation. And since last year, we have introduced a new version of the tool, Euclid 6. And it's available since April 2016. And here are the reasons why we changed to a new version. We took into account feedback received by competent authorities, industry, and we organized some SME workshops in different countries. In 2014, 2015, we went to UK, Italy, France, Spain, Ireland, Germany. I don't know if we came to Austria, but we collected a lot of feedback from the users of our tools in order to enhance them as much as we could. So we did a few changes, for example, in the installation process of Euclid 6. Compared to Euclid 5, it's much easier. It's not easy, but it's much easier, definitely. And we did also some changes in the format of the data that we collect, because we observed quality issues on dossiers, and we also needed to make sure that all the data, meaningful data that we receive, can be disseminated on the ECHA website. At the same time, also the OECD guidelines and the way data study summaries are reported has evolved. So we updated also the data format to take into account these changes. For example, the introduction of new test guidelines on in vitro test methods, for example. Together with the publication of Euclid 6, we have updated or created a new website. So now all the information you need to know on Euclid 6 is available on this website. You can find, for example, some information, some documentation, installation manuals for the server version. The user manual is there in different languages. You can go on the website to download the software after you create an account and sign in. And what you can download is two versions of the application. The desktop version, this is the version that you install on your computer and that you use as a single user. And we have also a server version for bigger companies or people who are working together on dossier preparation. So that's a version that can be installed on the server and made available to many users. If you create an account, you have the possibility also to subscribe to news alerts in order to be informed of any updates of the tools. For example, the last one was done at the end of January when we released version 1.2.0 of Euclid 6. And you can find some information about this release under the support section as well. Here we always publish a webinar or create a webinar to present the latest changes and also to update all the users about the feedback we receive from the users concerning the tool. So usually we have 400 or 500 participants, and afterwards the webinar is available on YouTube for you to watch if you did not manage to attend the event live. So once you have downloaded Euclid and installed it on your computer, as I said before, there is no installation manual for the desktop version anymore because there is an assistant to guide you through the installation process. So once you have installed Euclid, this is what you see. This is the home page of the application. And I will highlight some of the most important areas of this software. First, if you are exchanging data, Euclid data, you will need to import the data to your database. And there is this import functionality that will allow you to load any Euclid 5 information or Euclid 6 information to your Euclid 6 installation on your computer. So this is the place where you can import dossiers, datasets that you received from different users, different companies, from the lead registrant if he's making this dataset available. This is the place where you can also import legal entities or reference substances which contain key chemical identifiers. Euclid 6 is able to import Euclid 5 data as well, so that the migration is done during the imports. And you can continue to work in the most recent Euclid version, also on your previous data. All the elements or all the documents in Euclid are identified by a unique identifier. So I will show you later on in the demo how this can be used. It can be useful when you refer to a specific element to use this unique identifier and search for it using this box in the right top corner in order to access directly to a specific document. The main part of the database is the place where you manage data on your substances. And this is represented by this flask here, substance. And this is where you can create new substance datasets, where you can gather all the data for a registration, for example, for a substance. And this is where also you can update the data available in your previous substance datasets. The substance dataset is the place where you update the data, but in order to submit data to ECHA, you have to create what we call dossier. And these are snapshots of your dataset at a given point in time. So when you are planning to submit data to ECHA using ReachIT, you need to select your dataset, create a dossier, to say exactly, or to select exactly what you need to submit for registration purposes. And your dossiers and all the dossiers you create on the substance are then available in your database in this dossier section. We use some other inventories in Euclid in order to store, for example, chemical identifiers and reuse these chemical identifiers between different substances. For example, if you define one substance as an impurity, you can reuse these identifiers in another dataset so that you don't need to repeat information, and you can update the chemical identifiers or the things you know about these impurities or this substance in a central place. We have also a series of plugins or additional tools that are used in order to work on top of the data you have entered in the database. And the first one is the validation assistant. It's exactly the same tool as the one we use in ECHA to check the completeness of your dossiers. And within Euclid itself, you have the possibility to check this beforehand, before the submission, to make sure or to know in advance whether your dossier will be accepted or not. So I will show you how this works, but basically if the validation assistant tells you that there are some gaps or errors in your file, it's not a good idea to submit it to ECHA, because you will have exactly the same outcome after your submission. There is another plugin that is there, which is called the dissemination preview. You know maybe that after the submission of your registration dossier and after your registration has been accepted by ECHA, we have to make available non-confidential information on our website. And this dissemination preview is able to show you exactly what from your dossier will be made publicly available. There are also some advanced functionalities in Euclid, like the template. This is in order for you to reuse some data that can be shared between chemicals. For example, if you have a data that a record, a test summary that is used for read across for different substances, you can store this information in a template that you can attach to the different substances instead of copying and maintaining the same study summary in different data sets. This is a more advanced function. If you have some questions on it, I will be happy to answer it after the presentation or during the one-to-one session this afternoon. But you also can find more information about how this works in the user manual of Euclid, which is available in all the EU languages. So I was just talking about the user manual, and you will see that all the information about Euclid is embedded inside Euclid itself. So if you have Euclid installed and you are filling in a data set or preparing a registration dossier, you can always press F1 or click a question mark icon in the application to access all the information, all the help available on Euclid. Different kind of helps is available. For example, you have some generic description of Euclid 6 functionalities. What is a substance data set? What is a dossier? How to use a template? This is all explained in these Euclid 6 functionalities. The second level of information is how to create specific dossiers. So we have inside the help system of Euclid step-by-step instructions to guide you through the different steps of the preparation of a Euclid dossier for registration, for a people notification, for an inquiry. And these are available in this, for example, reach, registration, and people. This will be the place where you will find step-by-step instructions on how to fill in all the information in the Euclid dataset. And then we have field-by-field help. So this is not something that you read in full, but this is something that you access when you need it, when you are in the application and you are entering data in a field and you don't know exactly what is expected to be entered in this field. You can press F1 and the user manual will be open in the exact place where the field help is located. So this is an example of the step-by-step instruction on how to create registration dossiers and people notification. So you can see that it will go through all the steps and all the sections that are needed in order to prepare a registration dossier. So if it's a good idea to, before starting creating a registration dossier, to look at this document that is also available on the ECHA website in different languages, and that you can print. It's, I think, 100 pages with a lot of screenshots guiding you step by step on the dossier creation, registration dossier creation. So now I will go through in a bit more details the different steps for creating a registration dossier. And the starting point is a substance dataset. You need to create a substance that is like a book that will contain all the information you need or you have collected for your registration. So this is how it looks in Euclid. When you create a substance, you will be directed directly to a list of available substances. So for example, here I have 2 substances. And on the right side of the application, you will have the data entry area. This is where you will enter all the information on your substance. For example, the name of the substance, the company name, your role in the supply chain. This is the starting point for the substance dataset creation. And once you have entered this minimum information, you will see that the book will be created and the table of contents with all the data, possible data that you can collect for a substance will be displayed. So this is done in another tab of the application, which is called Doc Table of Content. And you will see here all the type of data that can be collected for a substance, and more specifically for a registration dossier. Euclid is used for different purposes. So we have implemented a way for you to display or list the sections of the table of content in a way that is more specific to your needs. So we have made available what we call submission types that you can access from here. And it will list you all the possible types of dossiers that you can create with Euclid. So for example, if you are a member of a joint submission, you will select this type of submission type here. And the Euclid section 3 will be displayed according to what information is needed for this type of dossier, a member of a joint submission. So before we go in more details with the specific examples of dossier creation, I will go through the full table of content of a data set, explaining what type of information can be collected from there. The first part of the substance data set is about substance identification. So this is where you will store all the chemical identifiers, an EC number or a list number. If you have pre-registered your substance, for example, you will have a list number available, the CAS number, the UPAC name, the description of your substance, the molecular formula. All these things are collected in this at the beginning of the table of content of a data set. Then you have also more precise information about the composition. We need to know for registration purposes the exact composition of your substance. So each company has to provide the list of constituents, impurities, additives, together with substance identifiers as well. And then you have analytical information. This is the place where you can attach your spectra or the elements that analytical data concerning your substance. Then section 2, classification, labeling, and PBT assessment. Usually this is the information that is provided by the lead. If the lead of a joint submission is providing the chemical safety report on behalf of all the members, then the PBT assessment will be only in the lead dossier. The same for the classification and labeling. If all the members of a joint submission agree with the classification and labeling, or if there is a harmonized classification and labeling as well, then this information will only be available in the lead dossier and not in the member dossiers. If the members, of course, have a different classification because of some specific impurities, then an opt-out is possible from the joint submission, and it's possible to provide also your own classification labeling for your specific substance. Section 3 of Euclid is about manufacturer use and exposure. And this is the place where you will collect, for example, the estimated quantities. So every year how many tons you produce or you import or you use. And this would be useful to calculate your registration tonnage ban. In section 3.5, we collect information about the uses of the substance. And this is also something that has to be provided by all the members of the joint submission. Your registration should include the uses you want to register, not only the substance. And then some data about exposure scenarios and risk assessment. And usually this is provided by the registrant performing the chemical safety report, if a chemical safety report is required. Then the core of the information is in section 4 to 7, and this is the place where the properties of the substance are described and the study summaries are provided for the different information requirements relevant to your tonnage ban. So yesterday, Eva presented the list of information requirements for the different tonnage bans, and for example, if FISCAM properties are needed, this is the place where you will summarize the outcome of the tests conducted on the substance. The same for environmental fate and behavior, ecotox and tox information as well. And this is done according to the OECD harmonized templates. So in all the OECD member countries, we have a common way of reporting this type of information, a common way of summarizing studies. And finally, some useful sections also for registration dossiers. Section 11, where you provide the guidance on safe use. Usually it's provided by the lead on behalf of the members as well. And section 13, where you attach the chemical safety report. Again, this is usually provided by the lead as well. So to help you entering the information in the Euclid dossier, I was saying a bit earlier that you can select a submission type. So if you are a lead and you prepare a registration dossier for a 1 to 10 ton tonnage band, you will select this type of dossier in this list, and the section 3 will be modified according to the information requirements for this tonnage band. So you see that some red asterisks have been added there, and it is an indication for you where information is expected to be entered for this type of dossier. If you have to prepare a registration as a member of a joint submission, then the information required are more limited. It's section 1, substance identification, section 3, uses and manufacturing site if you're a manufacturer, and the rest is optional and usually provided by the lead. A few tips about the use of Euclid. So Euclid is record-based, so if you are in the table of content you need to provide information, for example, analytical information in section 1.4, the way to add data there is to right-click on the section and create a new record. And it will create on the right side of the application here a form that you will be able to use in order to provide the analytical information. Some tips on how to fill in data in your dossier in the forms. We have in some places, you will see some fields that have this icon with the A and an arrow. This is what we call the text templates. So it gives you a structure for the field to help you identifying exactly what you need to provide in this field. For example, what we expect for a description of composition. If you are registering a UVCB substance, for example, this will be the type of information we would expect in this field. And also, if you provide the boundary composition as a lead of a joint submission, you will see also specific information that we would like to see in this field composition description. Some tips again on how to fill in the data. For numeric values, usually they are made available together with units, so we expect also units to be provided. When data has to be selected from a pick list, sometimes there is, when you cannot find the appropriate option in the pick list or in the list of choices that are proposed, you can select other. In that case, it's mandatory to provide some additional information to explain what is this other information you want to provide. And of course, every justification must be meaningful. So you cannot just enter data in a field. It has to be meaningful and scientifically justified. So some data entry example. This is the form that is used to collect data on substance identifiers. And I was indicating previously that you can identify your substance using a UPAC name, a CAS number, or an EC number or a list number provided by ECHA. But you can also provide other identifiers in this table. So if your substance is known with a previous EC number, this is the place where you would report this information. Or if you have trade names in different countries, you can also provide this information in section 1.1. Some information about substance composition. In this area of the application, it's quite important to select the type of composition you provide. In all registration dossiers, we expect a legal entity composition, so your own composition with your own impurities and constituents. And this is done by using this type of composition. So each registrant will select legal entity composition to provide this data. In addition, the lead of a joint submission would provide what we call the boundary composition. That is the composition that describes all the different compositions covered by the joint submission. So in the lead dossier, we would have to have the lead composition and also the joint submission composition. So what is the boundary composition or the substance identification profile that is provided by the lead? It is there to describe the scope of the registration. So what are for example, the impurities that are allowed and with which concentration ranges? What are the forms that are covered by the joint submission? Do you cover in your joint submission nanoforms, powder, bulk material? And this is the information that would be extracted to reach IT and presented to the joint submission page so that all the members can agree on this data. So this substance identification profile is agreed within the joint submission. And it's important to agree on this data because this will be the scope of the joint submission and the joint registration. And this will create the link between your substances composition and the data package in terms of hazard information and PBT assessment or classification labeling. So everything that will be outside this substance identification profile could not be covered by the same data package, for example. All the members of a joint submission needs also to provide analytical information, and this is usually done in section 1.4 of Euclid, where you can provide the type of analysis that has been conducted together with the methods and the results obtained. And these results and methods can be provided as attachment inside this table, methods and results of analysis. Some more examples about how to enter information in section 3.5, where you describe your uses. And what we have here is a description of all the uses for your registration all along the life cycle of the substance. So from the manufacture until the service life stage and the use of the substance in articles, for example. So for each of these type of use, some key information has to be provided. For example, the use name, but also some parameters or identifiers for this use. For example, if you have exposure to the environment and you have a contributing activity that has to be specified. This is the place where this is done. This is the place where you enter the process category as well, or the technical function of the substance to give some high-level information on the type of use that is done for your substance. And depending on the life cycle stages, different information can be provided. Now this is more for the lead or for the members that have to opt out from the joint submission. You have also to provide data in your own data set for section 4 to 7, for example, acute toxicity oral in that case. And this is what the lead is doing usually, but if you are a member of a joint submission and you did not agree to share the data, you can include this data also in your own dossier. But in that case, if you're a member of a joint submission, you have to opt out for this information, and this is done in section 14 here, where you create a record listing all the data you opt out for, and you provide a justification why you were not able to share the data with all the members of the joint submission or with the lead. The validation assistant now. So how can you be sure that you have entered the data correctly in your registration dossier? You can use the validation assistant to know that. And this is how it works. So once you have entered the data for your substance, you can go to your list of substances and right-click on the substance you want to validate. Select Validate, and the system will ask you in which context you want to validate the data. So do you want to validate your data as a member of a joint submission or as a registrant between 10 and 100 tons per year? So this is the first indication that you are required to indicate. The submission type, in this example, is it's a member of a joint submission. You press Next, and additional information are required to be entered there in order to understand what are your obligations under REACH. So you can indicate if you are part of a joint submission and if the lead is providing on your behalf the chemical safety report or the guidance on safe use. You can indicate if you are about to submit an update of a registration or if it's an initial dossier, and if your substance is phase-in or non-phase-in. And after that, you will have a list of things that should be checked in your dataset. This list of issues is reported with a code and then a section number and a document name to clearly identify where the issue was detected. And if you read the message that is described here, you will understand more what information was expected to be provided, and you will know how to fix the issue and where to provide the requested data. We distinguish between two types of failures, business rules and technical completeness check. But in the end, what you should, the objective is to run the validation assistant and to have no failure in this tab. That would mean that when your dossier is submitted to ECHA, it will pass these steps. In order to facilitate also the correction of the information, you can, if an error is detected in one specific document, you can right-click on the document and go to the reference document. It will open directly the document where the information should have been provided, and by reading the message, you will be able to add the data in the correct fields. When you minimize the validation assistant, if, for example, in order to correct the data in your dataset, the validation assistant will not disappear, it will just be hidden. And there is a small icon at the bottom of the screen that you can click to make the validation reappear, and then use this recheck button to run again the same validation on the dossier and see all the issues disappear one by one. Once you have validated the data, you will be able to create a dossier and to freeze the data that is available in your database to prepare a submission to ECHA. This is done also by going to the list of substances, right-clicking on the substance, and selecting Create Dossier. There you have also to provide the information on the context of your submission. So you have to tell the system if you are preparing a member dossier or a lead dossier, and you have to provide the information you use for the validation as well. So if it's a member dossier, like the one that is presented here, you would have to indicate what type of information is provided by the lead on your behalf, for example, and you would have to indicate your tonnage band. So you are part of a joint submission for 1 to 10 or 10 to 100 ton per year. If it's not your first submission for this substance, you will have to provide also some update information. ReachIT will give you what we call a submission number, so you have to indicate the last submission number for your registration in this field. And you have also to explain why you are sending an update. If you provide more information, if you were requested to send an update by ECHA in the context of a compliance check or a completeness check failure. At the beginning of the presentation, I was talking about these unique identifiers. So this is an example here. I have created a dossier, and this dossier has been given a unique identifier. So whenever you want to retrieve this dossier, you can, of course, go and display the full list of the dossiers you have in your database, but you can also use this unique identifier, copy it here, and this will lead you directly to the dossier. So if you maintain a list of dossiers you submitted to ECHA, you can rely on this unique identifier to easily retrieve the dossier or the data set from your system. And what we recommend to do also is to validate the final dossier, to run one more time the validation assistant on the dossier to be sure that everything will be okay when you submit it to ECHA. The last step of the process after the validation would be to export this dossier, and Alexis will show you how to submit this dossier using ReachIT later on. So what is created here is a file on your computer with the extension i6z that you can just upload to ReachIT later on. I said several times that you can use the validation assistant to know whether your dossier will be accepted by ECHA or not. And in ECHA, we are using exactly the same tool to check the completeness of your dossier. But since June 2016, we, in addition, do some manual verifications. So according to Reach article, we have to make sure that the data, when you submit a registration dossier, all the data required is available. So we don't check the quality, but we check the availability of the data. Before 2016, it consisted only of an automated check, but we have introduced some manual verification for things that cannot be automatically checked, and this is in place since June 2016. So why do we do some manual verification? To really ascertain that the information required is available, and, for example, that justifications are provided when needed. And we apply this manual verification to all dossiers. So not only new registrations, but if you update a registration, we will do this manual check as well. So what is the scope of this manual verification? They are there to verify that the description of the substance is correct, that any deviation from the standard information requirements, so if you use a data waiver, for example, or if you apply a read across, that the appropriate justification are provided. So even if the validation assistant in Euclid shows you that there is no issue, you might receive a communication that your dossier is not complete based on this manual verification. And if that's the case, we will add to this communication that you will receive via ReachIT an annex that explains clearly where the issue was found and what is expected in the update after the completeness check failure. So what do we check? Substance identification. So for example, if a UVCB substance is provided, we check that the description of the composition contains the element required for this type of substances. We check data waiver. So we check the justification for the data waiver. Is it part of the justification provided by the legislation text or not? Is the justification plausible? Then we also do some manual verification inside the chemical safety reports, or we verify that in case a testing proposal is made on vertebrate animals, that all the justifications are available in the dossier. For more details, there is a document on the ECHA website where we describe a bit more the scope of the manual completeness check. So here I wanted to do a short demo about the creation of a lead dossier between 10 and 100 tons per year, and how this can be done. So I will just switch to my computer here and quickly go through some of the steps I described in a short demo. So I will log in here. Can we please switch to the laptop? Okay. So in the example I will show, there will be some failures in the datasets I provide in different areas. For example, section 3.3 or section 7, and I'll show you that. Now, if we can switch now to the laptop, please. Okay. Can we switch to the laptop? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So this is my desktop version of Euclid. And have prepared a dataset for registration, 100 tons, for a lead registrant. So this is my Vienna substance here that appears in the list of substance. I open it, and on the right side you will see all the information. For example, the fact that I register as a manufacturer. I entered also some reference identifiers for my substance, the inventory number, a CAS number, UPAC name, and I can go to the table of contents here to display the list of information that would be relevant for a lead registrant. So here I'm looking for 10 to 100 tons registration, so I would select the submission type I need. And you will see that with the red asterisk, there will be an indication of the data I need to provide. So the dataset is already created. I will directly do a validation of this dataset to see what information I'm missing or what information I did not fill in correctly. In order to do that, I go to my list of substance, I right-click, and I validate the content of the dataset. So I select the submission type, 10 to 100 tons. Next. And here I'm part of a joint submission as a lead, and I provide the chemical safety report, the guidance on safe use on behalf of the joint submission. My tonnage band is the same as the joint submission tonnage band. Does not have to be, but it is in this case. And it's a phase-in substance, preparing the dossier for the 2018 deadline. I press next, and here the validation assistant tells me that I have 1 business rule and 6 completeness check failure. So I'll go to the first one. The first one is related to something wrong in the composition. It's indicated that as a lead of a joint submission, I need to include at least one composition describing the substance identification profile. So I need to go to section 1.2 of my substance to correct the data and make sure that I provide the boundary composition. I would just minimize this, go to section 1.2, and here I can see that I have my own legal entity composition, but I need also to make sure that I have a joint submission composition. And it's failing here because I did not indicate that this was a joint submission composition by selecting the correct entry in the list, which is boundary composition of the substance. So I'll select that. I'll save the information. My validation assistant is still running in the background, so I click on the icon to display it again. And I will simply recheck, revalidate the content of my dataset. So here I have 0 business rules failure and still 6 completeness check failure. And by going through the list here, you can see where the failures are detected and try to correct them. I will just show you another one before we stop for some questions. This is here an indication that I have a problem in section 1.4, analytical information. I can open the document in the background here. So here I have opened section 1.4, analytical information. And I read the message. It's indicated that I need to select a purpose of the analysis. I need to select an analysis type and attach documents for methods and results, or provide a justification why I'm not providing these results. I have also an indication here, number 2, that the issue is in the table analytical determination on the line 2. So I'll go there. I have 2 lines in my table here, and the issue here is that I did not provide the type of analysis I need. So I open this line and I select the analysis type, which will be infrared, for example. I had already my analytical results attached. I go back to the validation assistant. I didn't save here. Go back to the validation assistant. I check the data. And now I have 5 failures to correct. And each time you have an indication to which section the failure has been detected, which record. You can go to the record to correct the data and read the message in order to understand what went wrong. In addition, we have inserted some quality checks. So these are things that are not always relevant, but it gives you an indication of some potential quality issues in your dossiers that might be detected in the compliance check phase. So for example, here I have some issues or maybe some inconsistencies that I will need to clarify in different sections. So these quality rules are just an indication, quality indication, so it's not always 100% accurate, but in most of the case, it gives you a good indication what to clarify in your study summary or in your use information or other type of information. I'll stop there with the demo. I think we can take some questions if there is a need on Euclid. Otherwise, we'll continue with Alexis on Reach IT.
Merci, Francois. Thank you for this extremely helpful and complete presentation. I think it clarified a lot of things.